computer. Alrighty. So the room I'm in is so hot, by the way. Okay. So let's see. We are in chapter 2 of Zechariah. And just as a quick refresh, right, Zechariah is speaking while the people they've gotten back. Cyrus allowed some people to go back, right? They've gotten back, and then they find that the temple's in ruins, and the people there aren't so thrilled, and it's hard to find money to pay for it. Like basically everything is just much, it's very hard to try to rebuild Jerusalem. And now we've got this vision. Remember that horse vision, that there's someone on a bay horse, right, in the myrtles, and there's different things, and the angels. And that basically they've roamed everywhere. Everywhere is peaceful, but Israel, but Jerusalem. And so then we ask God, like, what's up with this, right? Why is everywhere peaceful, but here? And God sends the message of, don't worry. I am very, kineti Yerushalayim. I'm zealous for Jerusalem, and I'm angry at everyone else. And I will come back, right? And my house will be built and everything will be great again, right? So it's the kind of chizuk that the people need as they just wallow through the everyday difficulties of trying to be back in Israel. In chapter 2, we have got two visions and then a section that Rabbi Angel calls prophetic oracles. So yeah. So if the first vision was chapter 1, now we'll have 2 and 3, and then some brief oracles. All right, here we go. Va'esa et einai va'ere v'hine arba kranot. I looked up and I saw 4 horns. What does JPS say here? Oh, these correspond to the 4 winds. Oops. Oh no, hang on a second. Let me get rid of that. All right, 4 horns. And as you can imagine, we're going to try to figure out what is the significance of these 4 horns. Va'omar el hamalach hadover bi, ma ele? Vayomer elai, ele hakranot asher ziru et Yehuda et Yisrael v'Yerushalayim. I asked the angel who talked with me, what are those? And those, he replied, are the horns that tossed Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. Do you have any translation different than Zeru?
Dispersed.
Okay, I see. Yeah,
Scattered.
that I think that makes more sense then. Okay. All right, let's just two more. Vayar'eni Hashem arba'a charashim. Then God showed me 4 smiths. Do you have a different translation for smiths?
Craftsman.
All right. Okay. Va'omar, excuse me, ma'ela ba'im la'asot vayomer le'emor, ele hakranot asher zeru et Yehuda kefi ish lo nasa rosho, ve'yavo'u ele lehacharidotam leyadot et karnot hagoyim hanos'im keren el eretz Yehuda lezarota. What are they coming to do? I asked. And the angel replied, those are the horns that tossed Judah so that nobody could raise their head. And these smiths have come to throw them into a panic, to hew down the horns of the nations that raise a horn against the land of Judah to toss it. All right. Couple of things happening here. So the first thing that Angel notes is that we see a lot, right? The idea of 4, the theme of 4 things that have come to destroy us, 4 nations that have come to destroy us. And as Angel points out, several commentators maintain that these refer to those 4 kingdoms that have conquered Israel. Those are the 4 that are mentioned in Daniel. But as Rabbi Angel then states, but much like the previous vision, however, this vision is Zechariah consoling his own generation. So it's not that likely that he's giving this long range forecast way into our future of all, the 4 peoples, the 4 nations that will destroy us. It's just not really like shayach for that moment. And therefore, so Rashi and Ibn Ezra say, no, they refer to Israel's more recent enemies, which have it. And where does the 4 come from? The 4 directions of the earth. And so Zechariah therefore would be saying that God's going to, dismantle these powers and console the people, that don't worry, God's going to intervene, right? Which of course would match up more with the message at the end of the first chapter. What kind of comments, footnotes do we have?
Mine are all about four kingdoms, and they say Rashi
Ah,
explains the four horns represent the Gentile nations who, from the four corners of the heavens, that came and gored the people of Judah and Jerusalem until they were dispersed across the globe.
okay. So first of all, these two words where lehacharid otam leyadot et karnot hagoyim. What do you have? So the JPS has like little footnotes on both of those, meaning of Hebrew uncertain. What do you have for a translation of lehacharid otam here, where it's throw them into a panic?
Terrify them.
Yeah, I don't really understand. I mean, charada is like tremble out of fear, and that's like so
Well,
I'm not. I would
so
like to
I have
understand. Yeah, what do you have?
um cause them to quake.
Yeah, I'm just confused by the JPS saying like meaning of Hebrew uncertain. Like why? It seems pretty straightforward to me that that's what it means.
I'm kind of interested on the language that he's using. Why does he use the word granot, the horns, and
Hmm.
the roll? That's very unusual. He he could have said me'arba kanfot haaretz from the four sides of.
Yeah. Does anyone use?
So what's the issue here?
Yeah. So no one uses Carnot as directions ever?
No, I mean it's a horn. So
Hmm.
if it's a horn, it's a horn of a beast.
Yeah, that's a good
I mean,
question.
I don't know.
Hmm. Let me just.
That's what Steinsaltz says,
What does he say exactly?
that it's their beasts that were used to fight,
Yeah,
Um,
like
horns used as
like
weapons.
big bulls or something, or
mm,
something else. I don't know.
interesting. Okay.
So bulls are coming to fight. I
Well,
mean,
evidently, Steinsaltz is saying they were used for that. Yeah, I have no
Like as
record.
weapons.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
like
Uh-huh. I
tanks.
see.
They were used like tanks.
Okay. So it's like a symbol of the fighting. Okay, interesting.
When
Um,
animals do
mhm,
toss people with their horns, that's how they fight. They do toss with their horns. So the image works if you're wanting to talk about dispersion.
Oh, and very interesting. Okay, yeah, that's a great point.
And the craftsmen are those who know how to saw the horns,
I see.
like saw,
Mm-hmm. So
right?
saw them. Okay. I mean, it makes sense they use them as weapons, right? Yeah, why not? Hey, yeah. All right. That's our first vision. Now, vision number two. Va'esa einai va'erev hine ish uveyado chevel mida. I looked up and I saw a figure holding a measuring line, right? What we would think of as a measuring tape. Va'omar ana ata holech vayomer elai lamod et Yerushalayim lirot kama rachba ve'kama orka. Where are you going? I asked. Well, to measure Jerusalem, he replied, to see how long and wide it is to be. והנה המלאך הדובר בי יוצא, ומלאך אחר יוצא לקראתו. But the angel who talked with me came forward, and another angel came forward to meet him. ויאמר אליו, רוץ, דבר אל הנער הלז לאמור, פרזות תשב ירושלים מרוב אדם ובהמה בתוכה. The former said to him, run to that agent and tell him, Jerusalem shall be peopled as a city without walls, so many shall be the people and cattle it contains. ואני אהיה לה נאום השם חומת איש סביב ולכבוד אהיה בתוכה. And I myself, declares God, will be a wall of fire all around it, and I will be a glory inside it. All right, so that's our second vision. So now let's just go back and break this down. So an angel is measuring Jerusalem. and says that, I mean, essentially, I'll tell you how Angel describes it. Rabbi Angel. That's confusing. That this is a book all about angels, and the author is Rabbi Angel. All right. So the angel explains that Jerusalem's population will increase so greatly that the people will not want walls around their capital city, since walls would act as a constraint. Right? We can't even, the walls will constrain, will be bursting at the seams, right? Is how we would say it. Yeah. And that's, I guess, what it has to do with measuring Jerusalem. Here. Now, why this image, right? What's the significance of the guy who's measuring Jerusalem and saying this about the walls? So what Angel refers to, Rabbi Angel says, an underlying realistic aspect of this vision, which is exactly, it's directly relevant to the people, right? So this isn't just all flowery things about the future. This is actually really relevant to the people right now and speaks to them right now, right? If we remember to 586, Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonians, they destroyed Jerusalem's walls. And as it says in Nehemiah references that, that's a source of shame. It's embarrassing, right, to have your walls knocked down. And so what we're doing is taking the image of destroyed walls and transforming it from a source of shame, but really to a source of pride, a source of opportunity, a source of portending the future when the walls are knocked down, because they're actually going to be unproductive to us, because they're going to constrain our ability to be in the city, because we're going to be so many people. And that's where, if you go back to verse 9, when God says, Ani eheyeh la chomat esh saviv, right? I'm going to be a wall of fire around it. So God will still protect us, but we just won't need those physical stone walls anymore. I will pause there. Any comments so far? Okay. So he also, Rabbi Angel says that drawing on contemporary scholarship pertaining to the Persian Empire, David Peterson suggests another dimension of interpretation. The royal ritual city of the Persian kings, which was called Pasargadae, was built without walls. In and around it were fires symbolizing the presence of their cosmic god. The image of a city surrounded by fire in Zechariah's vision may have called the royal Persian city to mind. So not only then is this about the future when walls won't even be needed and there will just be God's fire, and this being a message for the Jewish people, like a sort of religious, so to speak, message. This is also historically contextualized, because God is now gonna protect Jerusalem in the same way that the Persian God protects the Persian capital, right? So it's saying it's gonna look the same. So it's just, this is the type of stuff that did we talk about Rabbi Dr. Joshua Berman's Haggadah this year, published through Koren, about, he's an Egyptologist, or at least he studied Egypt a lot. And so his Haggadah was references, like basically explaining a lot of the Haggadah and the Pesach story in the context of Egyptian society, right? Using archaeology and history and all of those things. So this is, a similar idea that it takes on a new meaning when you look at the broader historical context that is happening here. Okay, sorry, I did that again. 1 second. All right. Okay, so those were our two visions, and now we get to our prophetic oracles. 10. Hoi, hoi, venusu mi eretz tzafon, neum Hashem, ki ke'arba ruchot hashamayim peirasti etchem, neum Hashem. Away, away, flee from the land of the north, says God, though I swept you there like the four winds of heaven, declares God. Hoi Tzion, himalti Yoshevet bat Bavel. Away, escape, O Zion, you who dwell in fair Babylon. Kicho amar Hashem tzvakot, achar kavod shalachani el hagoyim hasholalim etchem, ki hanogea bachem nogea bebavat eino. For thus said God of hosts, who sent me after glory, concerning the nations that have taken you as spoil, whoever touches you touches the pupil of their own eye. Mhm. Okay, maybe we'll read all of the psukim here, and then we'll go. Oh well, here let's read one more. Ki hineni menif et yadi alehem v'hayu shalal le'avdehem v'yadatem ki Hashem tzvakot shalachani. For I will lift my hand against them, and they shall be spoil for those they enslaved. Then you shall know that I was sent by God of hosts. All right. So first of all, we are telling the people in the north to run away. Um, does anyone have any comments on that specifically? Excuse me, what we mean by north. Mm.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure where Zechariah is now. Is he in Babylonia or is
They're in
he is
Yerushalayim.
they are in Jerusalem?
Yeah.
So I so they got the go ahead to come back to the land. It's not their
Right.
fault.
Right. So, well, this is right.
So what is it trying to tell them once they move back to the land?
Yeah,
So they
so this is where
have
it just
another fight?
so 11 makes more sense because he's saying, Hoi Tzion, Himalti Yoshevet Bapavel, right? Escape, O Zion, you who dwell in fair Babylon. So what he's doing here is saying, hey, Jews, all those of you who stayed behind in Persia, right? You guys should now come and flee and come towards us. As Rabbi Angel says, he views it exile as negative, right? And wants it to he's like escape, flee, right? Exile is a place you need to run away from. Which of course is kind of ironic because that's Dafka how the Jews that's really the opposite of how the Jews perceived it. Because of course, most did not leave with when Cyrus said, okay, you can go back. Most stayed behind. Life was comfortable. They'd gotten used to it, all of the things. And so now it's like Zechariah saying, okay, guys, come on, come join us, leave where you are, come join us. And then actually Rabbi Angel just says, unfortunately, most Jews ignored Zechariah's call and they chose to remain in exile. And he continues the book of Esther, which took place almost 40 years after Zechariah's prophecies, gives the impression that the center of Jewish life is in Shushan and not in Israel. Right? So this vision was never really fulfilled. Um, and in fact, that I mean, it's so sad to see this that approximately 74 years after Zechariah's vision in 519 BCE, Nehemiah rebuilt the walls of Jerusalem in 445. Right, so it took 72 years from this in 519 for the walls to actually be built. And the city was so desolate that he decreed that 1/10 of the Jewish community was to resettle in Jerusalem so that it would remain viable. Right, and so that's what it says in Nehemiah. So basically, those walls, the fantasy of the walls not being needed because we'd be bursting is just like so far from reality. Jews did not come back. And in fact, of course, the story of Esther is really the story of finding God, finding your Jewish identity, right? Finding community, all of those things, Dafka in exile and not in the land of Israel. Someone's got to have footnotes or anything interesting here. Mm.
I mean, I have some commentaries that are talking about the Assyrian, the tribes that were exiled during the fall of the north
Okay.
country. And that at some point they're going to come back from Assyria and wherever else they were scattered to.
Okay. Interesting.
That's
Also,
what
by the
they
way, the
think.
poking themselves in the eye thing, right, this was I lost my place. Okay, yeah, whoever touches their own eye. So what was our note here? All right, so now he says that according to ancient Jewish tradition, there's a scribal change, hanogea bibavat eni. So all right, let's see what the footnote says. So he says, according to the simple reading of this verse, Israel's enemies poke themselves in the eye, i.e., like you bring harm to yourself, right, by oppressing Israel. But there's a midrashic tradition in the Mechilta de Rav Ishmael that says this is a tikkun sofrim or a scribal euphemism. And in this reading, the verse really means whoever touches you touches the pupil of my, meaning God's eye. Which would just mean that God is pained, right? Because touching the pupil of your eye, and eyes make me a little wheezy, that God is pained when Israel is harmed. And that either the prophet himself or the men, the Anshe Knesset Agadola, changed the wording since it was offensive to refer to anyone poking God in the eye, right? So, of course, as we moved more and more away from anthropomorphism, from ascribing physical traits to God, we went into it, we changed it to say that it's like you're poking yourself in the eye, but really that originally the intent was you're like poking God in the eye, which it's always very interesting. Excuse me. Ooh, it's so hot in the room I'm in. Okay, now we have 1 second. Okay. Rowdy. All right. Ki hineni menif et yadi alehem v'hayu shalal le'avdehem v'yadatem ki Hashem tzvakot shalachani. For I will lift my hand against them, and they shall be spoil for those they enslaved, and then you shall know that I was sent by God of hosts. Right? So the ultimate reversal that the people they enslaved you will be spoiled for them, right? It'll all be reversed. Okay, Roni v'simchi batzion ki hineni va v'shachanti betochech ne'um Hashem. Shout for joy, fair Zion, for lo, I will come and I will dwell in your midst, declares God. V'nilvu goyim rabim el Hashem b'yom hahu v'hayu li le'am v'shachanti betochech. V'yadat ki Hashem tzvakot shalachani elayich. In that day, many nations will attach themselves to God and become God's people and God will dwell in your midst. And then you will know that I was sent to you by God of hosts. Let's just do the next two and we'll talk about it. V'nachal Hashem et Yehuda chelko al admat hakodesh uvachar od b'Yerushalayim. Has kol basar mipnei Hashem ki neor mimon kodsho. Be silent, all flesh, before God, for God is roused from the holy habitation. All right, so shout. These are beautiful psukim. The English doesn't do it much justice. Roni v'simchi, right? Shout for joy and rejoice, I guess, right? Because I am coming, says God, v'shachanti betochech, right? And that also comes up in 15 as well. V'nilvu goyim rabim, right? That all these nations are going to come. V'hayu li le'am, and God and become God's people, right? But God says, v'shachanti betochech, I will dwell in your midst, and you will know that God has sent me. So we see v'shachanti betochech both in 14 and 15. The idea of God dwelling amongst us, it starts really with the Mishkan in the Torah, in Sefer Shmot, right? That God says, "V'asuli mikdash v'shachanti betocham," right? That you make for me this place, and then I will dwell amongst you. Now, how could God guarantee that if we make this place, that God will dwell amongst us? Well, it connects to how it was constructed. It was Kol Nadiv Lev, everyone who wanted to bring gave, and it was this like very beautiful communal collaborative process. Once we get to Shlomo building the temple, God does not say that, right? Shlomo builds the temple, and then God says, great, now if you guys follow my rules, then I will dwell amongst you. But it's not a given, right? With the Mishkan, it was like obvious, it was just a given. I didn't have to make any stipulations, any conditions. Now I do. As long as you guys do the right thing, then I'll dwell amongst you. And so it's interesting to see that once that place is destroyed, now God is returning to the reassuring assertion that v'shechanti betochech, right? This is not conditional here. It's that no, there will be a time when you will rejoice, and part of that rejoicing is that I will dwell amongst you. So I just, I find that interesting that it's when someone's in a really, really, really low spot, we promise things to them out of, I don't want to say pity, but maybe out of compassion. But then once they actually are in power, and things get better, we don't want to just still automatically promise that thing. We want to make them work for it. So I find it interesting that in some ways it's like come full circle back to this idea of V'shachanti b'tochech. A quick word about 16, that God will claim Judah as a special portion. So, V'nachal Hashem et Yehuda chelkol al admat hakodesh. Here it's translated as on the Holy Land. What Rabbi Angel points out is this is the only place in Tanakh that the idea of admat hakodesh, that the term appears, which is just interesting, right? In fact, what is the footnote here? Claim Judah as a special portion. Okay, does anyone have any footnotes or comments on that one? No. Oops, what am I doing? Okay. All right, now our last one, that be silent, all flesh before God, for God is roused from the holy habitation. All right. Please tell me someone's got something on this pasuk. It's so odd, right? Everyone, all you flesh, be quiet because God's waking up.
I have from Radak, be silent, all nations of the world, in reverent awe before Hashem, and never again will you open your mouths against his nation.
Hmm. 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 Interesting. Okay.
Sounds like they were looking for something to say.
I know. You just needed a conclusion.
Kind of what I would like a restatement, right? It's like he's aroused out of his holy habitation, out of the heavens.
Mhm.
He was aroused from his sleep, so to speak, like God was sleeping and then somebody woke him up. It doesn't really add to the
Yeah.
message.
Yeah, that's basically it doesn't. I know it's so random.
Well, Steinsaltz is a little more
Okay.
different. Hush all flesh before the Lord, for he is already roused from his abode of sanctity, the heavens to save you and dwell among you.
Hmm.
But from all my other studies, it's Hashem that's telling us that we need to make the dwelling place for Hashem. That's why we do mitzvot. That's why we do everything.
Right.
So there's really nothing to be afraid of but ourselves.
Yeah, it's
We have to be afraid of our own inabilities to fight this war, the internal war, the external war.
yeah, yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you're saying war, right? Because Malbim here, that it is also connecting it, that
Well, Chabad calls it a war too. That war you have to not eat that food you're not supposed to eat, that's a war. You're fighting a
uh,
battle all the time, an internal battle, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and it's Hashem who put the war in front of us because he wants us to fight it. He wants
hmm,
us to succeed, wants us to feel victorious over all the small things, the big things.
hmm,
That's the purpose of it. Yeah.
hmm.
But that's from one point of view. So
No, 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 but it's interesting, right? Because I mean, the Malbim's basically saying here that, like, when we say God is stirring, we mean for revenge, right? Or
and not for
avenge, revenge.
revenge. he
Yeah.
wants for us to be victorious. If you look at it from the other point of view, how about always going to look at it positively? That Hashem's not going to be looking for revenge. He's going to be looking for us to be victorious for about making a dwelling place for Hashem, which means a place of peace, of kindness. Yeah. So if we frame it the other way, we never have a deadline. We always have a possibility. And I have to go because the plumber's here. So.
Oh no. Okay. I hope everything's okay.
Yeah, it is. Okay. Thank
Oh, yeah,
you.
sure. Good luck. Uh, yeah. Okay. So that's funny. Yeah. Just looking to see if there are any other good explanations. So I won't. All right. Yeah. I think that, it's so far I would say my interesting point, I think what's interesting about Zechariah is that the way that you speak to people when they're at their low is by reassuring them of lots that like everything is going to work out, which is just, I guess it's just a comment on human psychology and how to talk to people. That when things are good, you tell them everything they're doing wrong and they're not seeing because they're blinded by the things that are good. And you're over generous, perhaps, arguably, when things are really bad. And you remove a lot of the responsibility, right? So far, he's not been projecting moral responsibility, either retroactively or in the future, to the people, just saying this is going to happen. Well, I don't know. I don't know what the right approach is. I mean, I don't know how to talk to my kids about it. Do you tell them everything's going to be okay, or are you also kind of tough on them even when they're struggling?
Well, you don't lie
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
and you don't give people false hope. So
right.
Zachariah must have really believed and seen in his vision that this was going to happen.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's not so bad so far. I was expecting it to be a lot worse. But I don't know. This doesn't seem so crazy. Like there's a lot of other stuff out there that is crazier to me.
Well, but the bones haven't risen yet.
Yeah, it's true. That's gonna
They get
be
crazy.
a doozy. Yeah. That stuff is tough. Oi. I don't have much else to say about that. Let me just see. Chapter three, right? Three and four are kind of short, so I'll look and see. We may start combining some. Um, yeah, my goodness. It is 79 degrees in the room I am sitting in right now. I am sweating